Marty Bent. Hey, brother. How you doing? I'm excellent, man. How's my audio on your end? Yeah, you're good. Is mine a bit too high? I'm getting a bit of feedback. Okay. Check, check, check. Yeah, that's way better. You got me? Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. One sec. Check, check, check. All right, man. Good to go. How you doing? I'm excellent. Thanks for coming on. Um, I just finished listening to, in preparation for this, listen to a bunch of the podcasts you've done in the past. Um, and there's lots of stuff we'll discuss today, but for whatever reason, this might be creepy as fuck, but one of the first things I wanted to ask is just like, what is a day in the life of Marty Bent like at this stage? It's seductive too, though, man. I worked from home for a period of my life as well, and the freedom is great and the flexibility, but you got to be your own man. You got to be disciplined because it's really easy to like not wear pants and just surf around on Twitter all day long. I was working in I was working in Dalian, China earlier in my career in finance, right? Financial sales basically, and it was the whole thing was a shit show. But long story short, I was sent up there with a colleague of mine. We were in an apartment. We were trying to basically open up the region for the company, and my manager, we had like weekly calls with the manager, and got on one Monday morning. I had my shirt on and no tie, but like looked like business casual, whatever. And he was like, "How's it going up there? Like everything's good?" Like, yeah, yeah. Gave him the kind of spiel. And then he was like, "Do you like get up in the morning and put your suit on and go out and do a few meetings, then come back and kind of make it feel like you're at a normal, real job?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, of course, of course." And he was like, "So you're wearing your suit right now?" I was like, "Yeah, look at me." He was like, "Why don't you stand up for a second?" And I was like, "Why do you want me to stand up?" And he was like, "Because I think maybe you're not wearing pants." So and he was right. He busted me, and I wasn't. But anyways, yeah, working from home, ups and downs. Um, where should we start? Yeah, man. So I'm curious about a number of different things that you're involved in, from how you got started to the stuff that you're currently doing with media and how you see that playing out over time. But I guess I hope it's not too boring of a question, but I am intrigued, not how not kind of the first touches that everybody has had with Bitcoin, but the eureka moment, or the moment like where you realized it was uniquely special and caused the kind of snowball of events to actually get involved and do all the things you've subsequently done with it. Like what was that for you?
when it comes to the world of money and economics and how it works. I went to college with a very know your enemy type mentality and really trying to understand what happened in 2008 in particular is kind of focused my energy on in college and just naturally taking economics classes and money and banking classes in particular, having to Google things as simple as like monetary policy. Somehow I stumbled across Bitcoin and was really drawn to from the monetary aspect of a sound digital currency. So that was my sort of a peak my interest. I think the instance for me in which I really had like a eureka, like oh shit, this thing is really powerful moment was well, I was a Coinbase shift card holder back in the day when they had that debit card that you load up with Bitcoin and spend anywhere. And I never really used it, but I ended up in a situation where I was on a vacation with my family and I ran out of money and I just so happened to have a seed phrase on me from one of my Electrum wallets. And so I used them 12 words to sort of I borrowed my cousin's laptop, downloaded an Electrum wallet, recovered the seed with words that I just put in my briefcase basically, and was able to conjure using those 12 words and then 17 different ways to get money when I was in a pinch. And to me, I was like, holy crap, this is pretty crazy.
Right. So back when you were researching, in school, when you first encountered it and were looking at it from a sound money perspective, what year was that?
It was probably like 2012, 2013. When I first sort of started dipping my toes in Bitcoin, like typical person who gets into Bitcoin the first few times and just sort of glanced over and yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then um, yeah, I think my senior year particularly, I was taking a money and banking class, learning about fractional reserve and the nature of QE and money printing, and then at the same time I was working at the managed futures fund where I was writing commentaries and we traded currency markets. And part of my job writing commentaries was to try to occasionally explain why the currency markets moved the way they did. And if you come to follow currency markets, you learn that central banks really have the most effect, the largest effect on currency movements. And so I spent about 3 years reading central bank tea leaves and following their announcements and all their meetings. And um, again, they set all these projections and all these goals, and are really throwing darts at the wall at the end of the day.
Right.
After 3 years of following and learning, it's like, these guys really don't know what
Don't
they're
know
doing.
anything.
Yeah. Not that anyway, they were just really backed into a corner, and that's when they would say they were going to unwind at a certain point and wouldn't, or that they would hit these inflation goals that they wouldn't, or these growth targets that they wouldn't, and that I think the constant sort of uh, changing of the framing from the central banks that I was following really sort of rubbed me the wrong way and probably opened my eyes onto Bitcoin a bit more.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple things on that. One is, central bankers, especially these days, and back in 2008, 2009, that was kind of because when I first started looking at, investing in the stock market and stuff, Alan Greenspan was like a god, right? And if he, you know, coughed 2 times at lunch, then the market moved. Is that kind of a thing? Not, I wasn't like in the market, but I was intrigued, and I was, reading the classics like Ben Graham and all that kind of shit. And you hear about Greenspan and how influential he was. And I think 2008, 2009 was like when the veil was lifted for a lot of people. And subsequently, central bankers got a lot of criticism, like they don't know what they're doing, they're idiots, and like obviously that's not true. They're in those positions because they're intelligent in some capacity. I think it's just that they're playing the wrong game. So they're playing a game that you almost can't win, no matter how smart you are.
No, I agree, and it's funny that you said that people were holding Alan Greenspan on this pedestal and calling him what they were. Again, it's hilarious. My time when I was intensely following the Fed points and stuff like that, traders were really legitimately basing their positions on the color of Janet Yellen's jacket and stuff like that. So things that really should not have uh, any influence
right? Like, what better sign is there of a perversion of a system than that?
Yeah, the color of the chairwoman's jacket is going to signal a sentiment within the central bank will then affect currency markets. It's really not the way money works.
That's
And
insane, man.
seriously, like household quantum trading these Fed minutes. That's the crazy thing about these Fed minutes too. They barely change from meeting to meeting. They change a few words, and that's how our financial system works now, especially in currency markets and bond markets as well. Is they just take these Fed minutes and basically algorithms that see what they change within the minutes, and they try to derive the connotation of the words and try to push that into a market price. It's
It's
really funny to me.
no, I was just, so there's so much unnecessary behavior, bullshit, whatever you want to call it, as a result of having imperfect money, having this kind of a perversion of the monetary standard. You get all this offshoot, ridiculous behavior just as a result of the foundation being like wrong, let's say.
Yeah, and exactly. It's like it got to a point. Yeah, I was like 22, 23. I was like, this is like insane. I think specifically the jacket stuff that really got to me. Like people were commenting trading strategies based on the purple. She was like purple or red.
You're just looking around like, what the fuck? Like, what? This can't be fucking real.
No, I wasn't any faster than probably any anyone from like the previous moment. I love that analyst sitting there like, this is nuts. This is all crazy. We should be buying Bitcoin. I just got laughing.
But the kind of what I was getting at with the original question was when you first encountered it, not just like when you first actually started thinking about it, because there's two elements that I find like I'm interested in how people got over. One is when they encountered it, how they saw the potential for it to be a better monetary medium than all the existing ones that were available, right? Like what about it allowed them to see that? And then the second part of that is how could what inside of them allowed them to have the ambition or faith or whatever you want to call it that something so small, so niche, so insignificant at that time, because market cap was like a couple $1 billion, right? I think back something like that back then. And so, what could lead you to believe that it could actually perform that function ultimately?
Having probably a more intimate knowledge of how fucked up the current system is, just from the fact that I was forced to immerse myself in it and attempt to understand how it works. But again, I'm not an expert in trading futures or finance or markets, but I think the years I spent in college studying economics and then working at that fund in particular, like working at the front end almost, because you're forced to talk with people who've traded markets for decades and sort of get a I feel like I got a good grasp about how markets are connected and how price discovery happens in our current market structure.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think also, while that was going on too, I remember like 2012, 2013, the Snowden leaks were happening, and I just think I was a young, malleable mind that had been jaded by the financial crisis and was definitely jaded by I still am by the incumbent system, political system, monetary system. I just think it's an anachronism that really doesn't work for humans in the modern age. I'm a big believer that we are entering this weird, crazy, fast transition into the digital age, and we are applying industrial age thinking to an age where that is not advantageous for us.
Yeah.
But like, so the WikiLeaks and Snowden, sort of the open source information, Aaron Schwartz, which he passed away, sort of the ethos of sharing information was also something that was very, very strong in my mind at that time period too. So I think Bitcoin as an open source project also was a no-brainer. It's like, all right, I don't trust these centralized systems to look out for my best interests. Bitcoin provides an opportunity to participate and make sure that you don't get fucked over. And that was very appeasing to me, especially in that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think lots of people saw the flaws that you just covered in the system, right? I mean, if you were paying attention at all, it seems like it was hard not to. But what I find unique and special, and I'm sure the reason why you're where you're at today and the role that you're playing in the ecosystem is because those reasons that you just articulated, and probably others that you're not even maybe consciously aware of. When you saw the thing, you had the ambition, maybe even the what's the word? Uh, can't think of it, but like it made you go after it, spend time learning more about it, and actually engage with it when others might have, or many others did think, yeah, there's lots of problems, but I can't see how this thing is gonna fix it. Now here we are, 10 years later from the beginning, and I mean, there's still many hurdles ahead, but it's seeming more and more like it's hard to deny that this is at the very least going to shake things up a lot. Whether or not it ultimately succeeds, who can say? But going to shake things up a lot.
Yeah, no, and probably also drawn to it. I'm a thrill seeker. I like risk. Not that I'm a gambler or anything more, but from a sports aspect, like skateboarding, snowboarding, all that stuff. Really uh, like the punk scene and stuff like that, and sort of taking your own beaten path. And
Yeah,
Bitcoin provided that opportunity for me at a very pivotal point in my young adult life.
yeah.
And it's you got one life, might as well spend it. Right?
Amen, man. Amen.
Big problems are coming along.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been this podcast was kind of the genesis of that process unfolding over time. Like I've told the story already on the podcast, my origin story. But long story short, I started interviewing people in 2015, just to learn more and to get my rocks off, talk about it with people, because it's everyone who's in the space loves to find another Bitcoiner to like jam with, because there's not many of us, or at least, and especially at the time there wasn't. Um, but over time it just pulls you in further and further, and then you know my experience was that life went in other directions, and it maybe pulls you away for a while and you take your eye off it, but it just has this gravity that keeps pulling you in. And then I think we were talking about the perversions that the old system has created, like the old system, the old monetary standard has created and continues to perpetuate. It seems like the gravity of Bitcoin pulls on you more and more over time, but it also pulls out of you, or it like forces you to determine with more clarity than perhaps anything else you've ever kind of done, what unique aspect of you it requires, or can benefit it, and kind of draws it out of you. And for some reason, the nature of the thing gives you the faith or confidence to maybe do that. And we're seeing this in like a floor. The space is amazing, and I want to, I'll get you to touch on that, because part of the stuff you guys do at TFTC is, you kind of aggregate some of the top happenings in the space so that we all don't have to, do that. You do it for us. You explain things going on, and like when I listen to the show, I'm like, holy fuck! Like every week, there's more cool shit going on, and it's like the far majority is really cool people doing really cool shit, building out this space and contributing to it in the way that they're uniquely capable of doing so.
Yeah, no, it goes back to Bitcoin providing this. There's many points here. Bitcoin providing this common mission that we've all sort of coalesced on. That's one thing. And then the other thing, like how it changes you, really, of course, is a big topic of Bitcoin. Time comes in front of your mind, so you're constantly weighing opportunity costs and thinking of your future self as well. So you've got your future self sitting on your shoulder at all times. So you're like, the more, and he gets louder the more you get into Bitcoin. And then again, yeah, so it's an incredible opportunity. And going back to the perversions that the current system enables, one of those being like it forces people into the workforce, where they may not have otherwise had to go into the workforce if they had an ability to save money over time and accumulate capital to invest, investment from nothing capital in particular. And this sort of leads to, again, into the perversion of the system in my mind revolves around the growth at all costs, the mindset, so consumption conspicuous consumption driven society, and that I think has really fucked up the psyche of Americans and the world at large in general. You're again forced into this rat race into the workplace. Both parents in a household now are where they were able to survive on one income only 5 or 6 decades ago, and then uh, everybody was forced into the workforce, and now parents working, not as much time with their kids, and they're still making ends meet with paycheck to paycheck. I just think over time, over a generation, over 2 generations, this is starting to weigh on society. You're seeing this in that sort of amalgate itself with, I don't know if amalgate is the right thing, but metastasize is sort of showing itself in the dual fuel crisis that we have now, and
Yeah.
suicide rates going up. And I think it's because people are forced into this conspicuous consumption mindset. You gotta spend. Saving is impossible, and if not impossible, is frowned upon by some people for some reason.
Yeah.
And I just, again, the perversions that stem from, in my opinion, unabashed money printing, pretty drastic and acidic too. So it's slowly over time, it's like frogs boiling in water. You wake up and a quarter of the country's addicted to opioids, and everybody's working paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. And I think there's a strong case to be made that that's an expected situation when money is both created out of debt and and the value of that money can be inflated away. So it's kind of like everybody is forced to stay on the hamster wheel because their value is literally being eroded away as they go. So they can't stop. They got to keep feeding it.
Yeah, well, that and the other point that I forgot to make, I really want to make is that you're forced to lose job people, right? You're
Right.
sitting there 9 to 5 in a fluorescent blue lighted office with people you don't like. You're eating unhealthy food. You're breaking your back at your desk.
Yeah.
You're barely getting by, and it just creates a terrible mentality. And going back and bringing this back to Bitcoin, and if you're saying there's something to talk about in the show because people are building stuff, and it's like I don't like most people sitting a 9 to 5 job, sitting in cubes, are not excited about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Bitcoin. It's so exciting. It's so raw. And again, its open source nature makes it so if you so want to build it, you can attempt to. And
Yeah.
I think that draws a lot of people in. And again, I think it's on top of that, being able to build on top of it provides a common purpose for people in Bitcoin where there's not other outside of religion. I hate to bring religion into it. Like outside of religion,
It's unavoidable.
team sports and other things, which may not be as like sports and other things outside of work may not be as purposeful. Like working to build, making money is very very purposeful. I would argue, and it entices a lot of people who want to have a purposeful life to work on something
Sure.
that actually matters.
100%. In startup culture and that kind of thing, they talk a lot about, from a managerial perspective, like start with why. Get the crew on board to know why you're doing this thing. Like if it's SpaceX, it's so that humanity can be multiplanetary in the event that we need to evacuate Earth, that kind of shtick, right? And people think, wow, that's a real big, like, meaningful goal and objective to have. And, with Bitcoin, once you get into it, once people start to see the detrimental attributes of the current system and the negative behavior that you just described and many, many others. And then the flip side of that is the potential for the types of behavior, the types of lifestyle, the types of interactions, type of world that we could have if a different standard was adopted and something like Bitcoin. I think, it's hard to conceive of a more meaningful why, like to get people on board. It's like once people start to see the many different ways and the scale at which this thing could possibly beneficially impact humanity, it's like it sucks you the fuck in because you're like, what? I can't. I'm not seeing many things more meaningful than that mission. You know what I mean?
No, I totally know what you mean. The other thing about Bitcoin is, again, it presents something actionable. A lot of people like to just
Right.
pontificate about the problems. One of my favorites to pick on is people who are like global warming freaks. Like they're screaming and they're calling for Green New Deals, and all that means is you give more money to politicians to throw money at the wall to see if they can fix the problem. likely to be sought by the political class.
Right.
Bitcoin presents a actionable thing that we can do to combat climate change right now. That's being more energy efficient by not flaring gas, by capping it, leaving it in mining Bitcoin. Like you can do that today. You can work on saving the environment today. You can work on saving the future of money today with Bitcoin. And that's like for a world that loves to complain. We live in a world that loves to complain, and nobody likes to take action. And that's something I a principle I try not to. I try not to talk about stuff. I try to take action
Yeah.
and not be an activist, but be an actor and act and do things.
Totally, man. I couldn't agree more. And I think, I've mentioned this a little bit on Twitter and talk about it from time to time, but, I think if you want to frame it in that way, and perhaps it's not the best way to frame it, but it's not totally off base. But like I keep saying, like the main protest movement of our time is this one. So and I feel like a lot of people who are, as you mentioned, activists and not actors, fail to see the degree to which this issue impacts many of the issues that people protest about and complain about and all that kind of stuff. Whether it's a result of a government with too much power, whether it's a result of corporate and industry and what have you, gaming the system, and people I think would benefit from seeing how a lot of those issues that they've been vocal about could be ameliorated, if not outright fixed, by fixing the problem at source, which is a better monetary standard. And in this case, obviously we think that could be Bitcoin. And then it would just naturally take care of a lot of the downstream ones.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is what Occupy Wall Street wants to do.
Right.
Again, to be actionable, Occupy Wall Street. And what was the last thing you said?
I was just saying that all these protest movements would be fixed if you fix the problem at a foundational level, and then
Yes, exactly. And that's another thing that's amazing about the current state of the world is everybody's swinging at branches.
right.
Bitcoin gets to the core of the problem. When I look at especially here in America, the red versus blue politics and the shit flinging that goes on in our political realm, and the framing of the conversations and the extent to which things are debated is very, very shallow in my mind. And um, everything that they focus on is a branch, not the core of the problem. People are focusing on branches when they should be thinking about the money. Again, everything stems from money. This is another thing I like to talk a lot about on the podcast and in the newsletters. This is something that has been echoed throughout history. If you go back to your Stoic philosophers, you go back to 4 millennia ago to like ancient Spanish, people were warning about the monetary system and hard assets in particular. Like, don't fuck up time and go forward 100 years or thousands of years to the American Revolution and a lot of the founding fathers saying don't fuck up money. Um, in pop culture, money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Everything is driven by money, and nobody understands what it is. And throughout time, people have warned, be careful with the money, take care of the money. And we live in a time where we're really not taking care of the money.
Yeah.
Because people don't know what money is. And that's the question: is that intentional? Have we intentionally not been educated about our monetary system? I know I had to do a lot of my own research to learn certain aspects of it, even when studying economics in college. Or is it just gotten out of hand, and there hasn't been enough focus on it in a couple decades, and the generation is basically just lost sight of it?
Probably both. Like I think it's too obvious, too important of a organizing mechanism for human behavior and the benefits to be derived from co-opting that the people that have done so wouldn't try to cover their tracks a little bit. I mean, that's inconceivable. But also, culture gets away with things, and people, you don't have to invoke like conspiracy theories oftentimes, because your average person who's swooped up in culture if they're not uber curious and desire to find their own answers for stuff, you're not going to have to like do too much persuading one way or the other. You know, their own drives and shit will take care of a lot of that for you.
Yeah, and it's weird how again our current condition is really changing that dynamic. I think, especially with the internet, the exchange of information, and people being able to learn about the ways in which loopholes are being taken advantage of in the system.
Yeah,
Um, and again, Bitcoin's open source nature sort of protects us from that in the future if we do transition to a system, to a Bitcoin standard, or Bitcoin does become at least widely adopted.
yeah. I think you mentioned like early civilizations, and I've been hugely fascinated by ancient cultures, Egypt, Sumeria, you know, India, all just super fascinating to me. But one of the things that, particularly with Egypt, one of the things I always thought was interesting is that like they had a pretty consistent culture for like 3,000 years. Like we can't even conceive of things staying the same. I know there was political changes and stuff, but like their architecture and their art and everything like pretty much was the same for that period of time. And I'm not saying it was rudimentary. It was just advanced as fuck. I mean, I've been there and checked it all out. It's incredible. But my point is like we go back, you know, 100 years from today, and people are wearing top hats and canes and like suits and all that stuff. And 200 years, people are wearing like the little frilly white things around their neck. Like, think, you know, things. It's inconceivable for us to think of those time periods without much changing. But even so, the status quo, like the current moment bias, is so powerful that people, you know, we're kind of oblivious to changes that are happening around us. You rewind 10 or 20 years and you look at photos from back then, you're like, what the fuck was I wearing? Like that looks so weird, and look at my haircut and stuff. But it's hard to see in the moment. And I just think if we zoom out, things are happening at breakneck speed. The way that media and the internet has disrupted the, you know, the way that information and knowledge is disseminated and how that's impacting all of our institutions, government, education, everything. And now this other one that started 10 years ago, which is shaking up money. Like 10 years seems like kind of a long time. And even though everyone in the Bitcoin space, you know, kind of thinks things are going pretty darn quickly, there's still like this, you know, bias that our time, the way that our time passes doesn't change. So we're still kind of stuck in seeing things progressing at that speed. But, you know, when this period is looked back at, I mean, what's 10, 20 years in the historical record? It's a flash of a pen. And for such a momentous change to have occurred in that time is going to seem like of course it's going to be disruptive because it's going to be way, way faster than any changes that preceded it.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin Teen has been explained. My favorite quote of Bitcoin Teen is Bitcoin is exponential technology. No, you see it,
Yeah.
again. That's actually what I wrote about yesterday at the event. It's surprising this year. Not many people are talking about it, and it's happened somewhat silently and gone under the radar. But the network hash rate has more than doubled. It's
Yeah.
already down to 42 exahash a second at the beginning of the year. Hit 88 88 exahash a second on Monday, and then I believe it hit 102 exahash yesterday actually at some point. So it could potentially triple this year if it keeps this pace up. But um, that is one of my favorite fundamental signals is hash rate. It signals that more people are taking on risk at the mining level, at the
Yeah.
base level, and dumping it into the space. And uh, it's something that's very underscored this year in particular, and something that's happening quickly
Yeah.
is the computing power connecting to Bitcoin and mining on top of it.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's weird how it gets, you know, on the kind of tops of the bull runs that the public comes in, the media attention comes in, and everybody is watching it. And obviously, there's a lot of malinvestment and that sort of stuff. And then it pops, and everybody just turns off or turns negative. Like they either got burned, and they're like, I'm not getting burned again. I'm not an idiot. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, sort of thing. Or it just kind of fades back into the background. And you know, it's amazing how much we kind of self compartmentalize the things that we expose ourselves to. And like for Bitcoin Twitter is a great example. So I up until like a few months ago, I've never been active on Twitter because I just didn't really give a fuck what, like I used it as my own news and I didn't really care to engage much. And then, slowly but surely, I guess I got, just by happenstance, I followed more and more people that were in Bitcoin Twitter, and all of a sudden Bitcoin Twitter is an entity that I can like behold. I know I'm in there, and but for the majority of people on Earth, that doesn't even exist. Like to me and you, Bitcoin Twitter is where it's going down. We're learning about all the most relevant shit in our worlds, right? But to my mom and dad, to many friends, to all sorts of other people in the world, that's not even an entity that they know exists. And so it's so funny how, based on our interests and based on our ambitions and based on our personalities and stuff, we create these worlds, these bubbles for ourselves. And I think that's part of the reason why the hash rate can be doing what it's doing, and there's so much development in the Bitcoin space, and there's like, this thing ain't, we all know this ain't over, this is just getting started. But for people in other bubbles, it's not a thing, not right now.
It's funny when somebody wanders into Bitcoin Twitter from another Twitter bubble, and they get to see the madness. It's funny seeing outsiders' reaction. It is a very volatile place, just like the price of Bitcoin. But it's important too. It's great that we have this quasi public forum where we can basically have a meritocratic debate, right? A Socratic debate online in front of everybody. The cream rises to the top, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
It usually does. Uh,
I think it's awesome, man. And I don't, I think you only think it's like hardcore or abrasive or whatever you want to call it. If I mean, who can't handle that's, you got to be able to handle that kind of shit. And you might put out an idea and it might get shit on a little bit, and you should take that as saying, either, okay, like I'm going to stand behind this and get after it a little bit, and we'll really see who's right or wrong, or great, I refined an idea. And if there's a little bit of like jabbing here and there, I mean, come on, this is, who cares?
yeah, I think if you're, especially Bitcoin Twitter, if you have an the mindset, which is again like a market for ideas
Right.
and critically, what's what I'm looking for? You're going to be tested. You're going to be tested very critically. People are going to have strong opinions one way or another, and that's fine. I feel like we recorded the podcast last night. Um, Sounds like it's somebody who is particularly a journalist and loves a lot of Bitcoin as well. Maybe has differing thoughts on interest rates and whatnot. And I just, some people get personal. So nobody should get personal. Somebody just has a different idea.
Yeah, totally.
Got to try to take the ego out of it.
Absolutely. And it's all going to play out in the end, right? So, it doesn't, you don't get points for being right now. We're going to see. And it's all being recorded too. So, what I find interesting, and I think, people that, and this is a great tell of people who are treating things in the most expedient way versus long term, more kind of founded in humility and a stronger more sense of morality, is like all those people who in 2017 were like shilling every like scheme under the sun, ICO, 100x your shit, like all this kind of stuff. I mean, people saw that, and so if they want to try to come back into the space now and like act like everything's cool, like maybe people are fine with getting them back in some capacity, but uh, people showed their character and stuff like that in that period, and I don't think people are going to forget super easily, and that's the trade-off you made at the time. You thought you could make a quick buck by representing yourself in one way, and now times are different. And what are you going to do if you sold your reputation so cheaply?
Yeah, this is also a reputation game, a long term. Again, talk about time frame. It is a long term game, and while it may have been uh, worthwhile financially to chase those ICO bubbles and those Bitcoin bubbles years past, it definitely has not produced much other than burn money.
Yeah.
unfortunately didn't pan out. But there's great examples out there of people who were wrong but haven't been able to hear. That's the other thing. If you are wrong, just don't cling to being wrong. If you admit it and move on, I think that's much better. And again, this is a long-term reputation game. Um, Clinging to being wrong is not advantageous. Give up and admit that you're wrong. Move on.
Yeah. Something you mentioned a second ago, kind of the how Bitcoin Twitter is kind of like the Socratic involves the Socratic method and things like that. When I was speaking with our mutual friend, I think American Hodl, which I hear you guys might be speaking with in the not too distant future. He actually made the point like Bitcoin Twitter is such an imagine if there was a record, a written record, you could have been a fly on the wall, whatever, during that time period, where Socrates is up there like, calling out everybody and seems like this crazy person, and his behavior and the things he's saying is counter to the status quo, and as a result he gets in trouble. Imagine if we like could have been there to hear everybody talking, hear like all sorts of different people and their commentary and what they thought about it. Like, wouldn't that be interesting? And that's what we have for this time period. I mean, it's going to be so cool to look back on it in 20, 30 years. And this will be in textbooks or brain downloads, however people learn in the future. All of this commentary, or not all of it, but like it will be drawn on to showcase how people were thinking, how people were interacting. It's incredible.
It's it's incredible and scary too. This is why this is also why tweet. Make sure your spam tweets out there. There are people who like to delete tweets out there, so we need to stamp as many as possible so they're safe for eternity. But yeah, no, it's like, that's so I'm from Philadelphia originally, and I grew up fascinated with the American Revolution and the founding fathers in particular, and what they achieved at Independence Hall. And that's if you go to Independence Hall, uh, have pictures of the founding fathers having debates while they're writing the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and so forth. And I've just had vivid memories of going to the museums and the places in Philadelphia where the founding fathers sort of congregated and looking at those pictures and being like, what the hell are they saying? What were these conversations like?
Right? I mean, fuck. It would be so cool if you could transport yourself back there. Or I've thought about before too, and this probably didn't happen in one specific place, but when gold became a monetary medium that was broadly used, I mean, it would have been cool to hear what people were saying then, like whether they went from shells or rocks or tied knots or whatever the fuck they were using to discovering gold and realizing this was a good thing to use. I mean, that would be amazing to see how people were reacting at the time.
Yeah,
I'm a history freak, so I think about that kind of shit a lot.
no, I mean, it's like, how is history going to change though? Like, how, like, is there too much information to go through for future generations because you're just putting it all on the internet every day? The amount of information. I think the stat, I did a podcast with David Bailey, and I think the stat he gave me was we upload more recorded history in one day than we've ever recorded between like 4000 BC and like 2000 AD.
Yeah,
So now, let's put 6,000 years in history with the same amount of information we're downloading that on the internet daily.
yeah.
Um,
And
it's just
Hodl actually made the same analogy for Bitcoin, saying that at some point in the future, more value will be created or represented in Bitcoin as all of like the previous 99% of history, which we can't conceive of right now. But if the correlation or comparison to data and information is similar, then it's not that far fetched.
no, and it's again going back to Bitcoin seen as exponential technologies, and again, that's just a function of our monkey brains. We cannot sort of comprehend exponential growth in real time. We're used to linear growth, and yeah, we're in the middle of an exponential technology change
Yeah.
with the internet and Bitcoin combined. I think.
So considering, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna pretend like I know what's gonna happen in the future. I just know it's gonna be a lot different than it is today.
do you, considering that it's impossible, but when you let your mind wander a bit, whatever period in the future, let's say 20, 30, 40 years, do you have any sort of, yeah, any sort of idea what things might be like if you could attempt to extrapolate from where we are today?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess you're like optimistic, pessimistic view.
Let's go optimistic.
Um, yeah, optimistically, I just think hopefully for yeah, the next generation, I think is actually inevitable. As children are born today, and probably go back 10 years as well to the onset of social media. Um, and that's really when the spread of information exploded in my mind in particular. So like 40 to 30 to 40 years ahead of that, like you're gonna have a whole generation that grew up on the internet, and again, like going back to what I was touching on earlier, like the parent system is just so archaic and anachronistic that that it does not serve them, and hopefully, in my optimistic view of the future, humans in general, but from the shackles of the state and the state's control over information, finance, whatever, and people have taken it back into their own hands and are able to build a more equitable, fair world with open source technologies, and hopefully that leads to more flourishing. And I'd like to think in 30 years too, the world will be more low time preference, and we'll have more missions to space, and we'll be trying to build things that last for millennia, like the ancient Romans built, and other societies that sort of stood the test of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree a lot with what you just said, and I think it's interesting. Obviously, there's lots of things that are fucked up about the world and society today, but it's, I mean, I don't know how much opportunity you've had to travel, but I've traveled pretty extensively, and I just meet fucking amazing people everywhere, and like obviously a unified culture has kind of emerged in the world as a result of the internet, right? So that people, we all have the same access more or less to the same information, and some if you're cool with people, people are cool with you, and like people want to be healthy and have fun and work on things that are meaningful to them and develop meaningful relationships with other people. And I just think like if the world we have today, drawbacks yes, but also a lot of really awesome stuff going on. If that's the world we get out of the current system, then fuck, like what kind of world could we get out of one that we improve dramatically from the foundation? I mean, I'm just super excited by
Yeah, I'm just like infinitely excited about it because again, environments like I was very pessimistic in college before.
it. Me too, man.
It was cheesy. It's said a lot by a lot of Bitcoiners. Like, really felt like I had no power. There was nothing. Like, yes, I could climb the corporate ladder and financial firms and something like that. At the end of the day, um, I think the South Park episode, "Vote or Die," really sticks with me still to this day. If you're voting, like I think whenever I watched that for the first time, I was 13, 14. That really has stuck in my head. Like you're voting between a douchebag and a turd sandwich. You're giving them a limited choice, and
Sure.
at the end of the day, the powers that be are going to get what they want, and voting, like voting especially, is a sideshow where you're presented an illusion of choice,
Yeah.
and you're really not affecting anything. And again, Bitcoin has provided an optimism that provides an opportunity to affect things and bring your vision of the world into reality.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And this conversation, people listening might even be, rolling their eyes that I'm having it again because it's every Bitcoiner I speak to. I can't think of one that I've spoken to that hasn't said something similar. Like there was a hopelessness, there was a kind of given up hedonistic sort of attitude, there was depression, there were all of those sorts of things were bundled into like how they saw the world and how they were going to go forth as a young person and interact in it. and the ones that have come to come to Jesus, come to Bitcoin, they that has changed dramatically. Like now, it seems like to use your term, we're not powerless in this fight. We're not without weapon. We're not without hope. Now there, all those things do exist, and it's not a foregone conclusion. I think that's why we all feel so motivated to like put energy into it, to help build it, to contribute to it, everything like that. But now it's like, no, this world can be the way that we might have envisioned it in the past when we were looking through it through overly optimistic eyes, and then we were smacked in the face by the reality of the world when we grew up a little bit. Like, no, it can be a hell of a lot better than we thought it could be. It just requires our determination and effort. And I mean, that's such a powerful thing. Like you said, a lot of people wake up in the morning, go to the job they hate, interact with people that they don't all that much like in an office with halogen bulbs, and all that kind of shit. And that's a miserable existence. And then you get your rocks off on the weekend and in between when and as a result of only having that limited time to do so, you turn up the volume, right? You get fucking wrecked, or that's the culture we have. And I, I mean, to be able to wake up and smile and be like, one, I get to engage in something that I find meaningful today. That's awesome. Two, I see a future that's brighter than I did before, that's brighter than the current situation. I mean, that's such powerful shit. I mean, I think there's a huge role to be played in Bitcoin education for mental health. And I know it sounds weird because, it's a tech phenomenon, a monetary thing, but I was joking with someone recently that, there's a psychedelics are beginning to be in 2021. I think phase 3 trials will be finished and it'll be available for treatment for depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. And so this is a psychedelic therapy in combination with psychotherapy, right? And I only half jokingly kind of said they should add a little Bitcoin education into that, because those things help you reintegrate the past and kind of have gratitude for your present, but that's still kind of like, how do you overcome the seemingly insurmountable things in society that are prohibiting that kind of better future that you have in your mind from materializing? Maybe a little Bitcoin in your life will help you see things a bit differently.
Now, psychedelics probably help turn me towards Bitcoin as well.
I think you're probably not alone. Yeah.
Um, Definitely helped nudge me more in the area as well. But yeah, it's again like the story. I don't think I've ever told this on a podcast or anything. It's not really a story. And again, it's right before I quit the hedge fund. I sort of noticed when we managed Citrus Fund. I noticed that I worked in the West Loop in Chicago, and I had to get off at Quincy L stop and walk west across the river past Union Station. Union Station is the train station where everybody comes from the suburbs. And it was crazy. So I had to walk past Union Station, west past, as people were walking east into the loop, and especially in the winter, it was crazy to see. Like, even if, no matter how cold it was, people were like walking like zombies, like very slowly. You could tell they were um, dreading going to where they were going. And then when I would go catch the L home, walk east, as people were walking back to the train, they would literally be sprinting to the train like top gear. And at like, so I worked as a manager from like 19 to 22, and like over 4 years, finally the last couple months there, I was like, these people are like walking like zombies to work and running as fast as they can at the end of the day, and like every day that stuff's going on. It's just, again, it's not for humans, for animals at the end of the day. They're supposed to enjoy this life. Again, we only have one life. A lot of people waste it doing things they don't like for people they don't care about, and
It's it's
things that are essentially worthless at the end of the day. It's just a job for a job's sake.
it's a tragedy, man. And I'm not excluded from it. Like, even recently, up until a few years ago, I was working in a job where um, the days off were sporadic, right? So just it depended on if there was clients. So I remember I worked for a 28-day straight period, right? And I had an hour-long commute on the subway each way every day. And that's however many days in. And I'm someone who's I don't like check out easily. I like to stay aware and be thoughtful and have an intellectual curiosity kind of always running in the background. But on day like 20 or whatever it was, and I was just a wake up, get on the subway with my headphones on, work, get on the subway, come back, eat, sleep, repeat, repeat, repeat. Like I remember I had this moment in the subway car where I snapped out of the zombie mode. I was like, fuck, like I've just been on autopilot for like 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, it made me think of like, American Psycho, where he's like, I can't remember the monologue, but he's like, I'm just simply not there. Like in talking about his interactions and stuff. And obviously that's terrifying. Not that I had any inclination to, become a mass murderer, but but yeah, man, it's a scary situation, and the fact that and yeah, the fact that this is providing people possibly an opportunity to opt out is, I think, a tremendous thing. And just one story that I've never told and never even really thought about up until something that you just mentioned. But I think we mutually looked out at the world when we were, let's say, university age, and saw kind of these insurmountable forces, and that caused a lot of hopelessness or doubt or whatever we want to call it. And I was looking at this and thinking, oh yeah, this is how it is, psychedelics and how it helped you come to Bitcoin. For me, it was the reverse. I was looking at the way banking worked and the way the financial system worked and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, like, the people at the helm of this have so much money and power. What could possibly be motivating them to have more and more and more? And whether or not that assessment was correct or not, it may not have been, but I believed it at the time. And I was like, there's got to be something beyond the material that's motivating people. And so this led me down like a rabbit hole, and psychedelics were one of the domains where I was like, maybe there's a secret in that realm that these people know about or are motivated by or whatever. And then once I went down that realm, it kind of all opened up, and I dropped that line of thinking to some degree. But that is kind of how I got there. I was wondering what more there could be, and that's kind of how I got down there.
What drives the people in power, especially considering how much they have? I do think it is power. And I think, again, that's why I think Bitcoin's important. I do think the world is run by a bunch of psychopaths. Like,
Right.
the defeat to want to attain the kind of leadership that it takes to become a president or even like a sitting senator, you have to be a psycho. Like the personality traits of the people in those positions are not good personality traits in my mind. We need to get the psychos away from the decision making, and Bitcoin does that via code.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think it's lost on most people how the current system actually incentivizes, kind of plucks out people with those character traits and actually rewards it. Where so it's kind of like the system is incentivizing this is the wrong thing, and that's probably why it's at least partially fucked up. There's some good people in there too, but
No, it all comes back to incentives. Like that's what humans are driven by incentives. And again, the incentive of the current monetary system is financial. That like we are going to take control of the money, and then we and our friends closest to this monetary spigot are going to benefit greatly
right,
at the peril of the rest of the world.
yeah.
And that's just a function of how money works today. It literally allows this accumulation. It enables this accumulation of wealth that you were alluding to earlier. And it's again, I think it needs to stop. And that's why I think that.
Last question, Marty, before we get into the rapid fire. But what actually, it's a two-part question. One, I heard you speak on a recent podcast say that kind of Bitcoin's taught you some hard lessons, and I think you're probably not alone with that. I think we've all been either burned or humbled or learned some things as a result of interacting with Bitcoin. Um, what are those for you specifically?
Um, Probably just make sure you trust yourself and your own judgment before you trust anybody else. Yeah, I think again, the lesson of extreme ownership. If you have to take extreme ownership of your life, then yeah, if you're not careful, you can fuck up along the way. Trading, whether it be trading shit coins or spending your Bitcoin on stupid investments,
Yeah. I mean, it really seems that personal responsibility that may be initially inspired by, being your own bank bleeds into so many other aspects of your life. You alluded to the behavior change component of Bitcoin earlier, and that's a narrative that's becoming a lot more. I feel like it's probably still in the kind of insular community of hardcore Bitcoiners, but I think it's not too far away from bleeding out maybe into the broader culture, maybe during the next bull run or something like that. But it's like that personal responsibility, that desire to be self-sovereign is not just a financial thing. It's a health thing. It's a relational thing. It's a philosoph. I mean, it just kind of branches out into many different areas.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not perfect.
Sure,
I'm
sure.
not every other person I know, and I have gotten better over the years. I'd like to think at least, and slowly but surely, I do definitely still have my flaws, my vices, but again, Bitcoin being the impetus to think about this stuff, because you have to weigh the opportunity cost. Definitely is a net positive.
Totally. Um, where do you kind of see yourself in, let's say, 3 years? So I won't get crazy and say 10 or something like that. But you know, uh, what do you want to be at in 3 years? How do you see things unfolding?
It's a good question. This whole journey with the newsletter and the podcast has sort of been organic at this point, really natural, sort of letting it take me wherever it goes. And it seems like it's drifting towards like more evergreen content and maybe focusing on this stuff full time at some point. So yeah, I'd like to have TFTCs sort of build out more evergreen content, just a source of Bitcoin education on the web, and hopefully well into starting a family at that point. Already I'm married, and yeah, so maybe I might not be in New York City anymore. Trying to settle down as I head into my 30s. Yeah, so I'll be in my early 30s then. I don't know. Hopefully coaching lacrosse in some capacity at somewhere as well. But yeah, I don't. Again, this has all been very organic and just sort of riding the wave, if you will.
But your intention is to stay in the space and kind of continue to
Yeah,
do more inside of it, right?
definitely.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Well, unless it blows up and I'll be here to stay,
Yeah.
learning about Bitcoin, and unless it gets boring, then but maybe I'll have to find a new interest.
Are you public about your like your day to day work, or is that something you keep private?
Um, keep it close to the chest. I work for a company. Yeah, I like to keep it close to the chest. But there are many things that can't really talk about on this.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So I don't know if you've heard previous podcasts, but this is the part where I do a bunch of rapid fire questions. So I'll just read the question, you respond however you like, and then the last part will be a word association, which is just I say a word, you say the first word that comes to your head. You good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What is money?
uh, Times four.
If you had to explain Bitcoin to your grandmother or someone over 80, what would you say?
Um, uh, yeah, I think it's
By the way, pass is acceptable answer.
usually. I think my grandmother would explain it.
What is the
Yeah,
what is the primary reason why Bitcoin is important or interesting to you?
liberty. Liberty. I think we live in a time where people take liberty for granted, and civil liberties are being eroded every day. And it really is a way to take back very very strong civil liberty, a very important civil liberty. Um, and yeah, we're all about freedom at the end of the day. I do think that is eroding throughout the world, and Bitcoin sort of gives that back to us in some capacity.
I love that. Um, how long after you first heard of Bitcoin did you start learning more about it and purchase it?
Started learning about it probably a few months after I first saw it, and then it took me probably like a year and a half when I first saw it. That was before college.
What has been your most effective method of educating people about Bitcoin in conversation or more formally?
Most recently,
Would you be able to give me that spiel as part of the answer?
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin provides an opportunity to become more energy efficient in a time where it is obviously um, on the top of everybody's mind is energy consumption and use. So you have the ability to take uh, gas that would have otherwise been flared and sent into the atmosphere, making it 30 to 40 times worse than if it were captured and excuse me, if it were captured and used and expended for the atmosphere. Um, and you have the ability to basically help reduce carbon emissions or gas emissions into the atmosphere by capping that and turning it into digital gold by mining Bitcoin. And the the first the most common sort of pushback I get is like, why haven't people doing that already? It's because there isn't much incentive. Like these oil basins are in very disparately located areas. They're hard to get to, and more importantly, the energy is hard to transport. So somebody has to come on site and consume the energy on site. And before Bitcoin mining, in particular, there really hasn't been an incentive to do so. Even though going forward, supercomputing might pick up some of that energy as well. Bitcoin really creates strong energy efficiencies across the energy supply chain. So helps make the oil producers more profitable, helps cut emissions, and helps secure and decentralize Bitcoin at the end of the day. So it's like a win-win win.
Yeah, and even with the computing, if even if that starts competing with it, let's say, I mean, Bitcoin ultimately is going to be the most saleable good. So what would you? I mean, you couldn't ask for something better for excess energy other than converting it into the most saleable good there is with a 24-hour open market for it.
Right.
It's like,
It's again, it's like hard concept.
sure.
Actually, that's not a hard concept. It's like the energy efficiency. Once people see it, well, that's actually that. I had my father-in-law had an aha moment over the summer, which is like,
That must have been very sweet, bittersweet. Yeah, I think I can't wait until the narrative shifts from like the energy consumption of Bitcoin is going to destroy the world to the way that Bitcoin uses energy and the ecosystem created might actually save the world, from an energy and emissions perspective.
no, then yeah, and then from there it pushes up to space, right? And since we're energy efficient here, using all the energy sources to their utmost capacity, cointerize the sky and start colonizing space.
Exciting times. Next one. Can Bitcoin be stopped? If so, what is Bitcoin's biggest vulnerability? If not, why not?
Uh, Biggest vulnerability would probably be a solar flare. Um, the Earth has bigger problems if that's happening. I go back and forth with whether or not it's able to stop at this point. I'd like to think it can, but um, I had a conversation with Eric Hospital last week. He seems to think it would be naive to think that these states are not organized enough or capable enough of attacking Bitcoin. And then you look at the geopolitical landscape today and find it pretty hard to conceive some of these countries coming together to attack Bitcoin and not having at least one or two big players see it as an opportunity. So I do think Bitcoin might be, but I'm still curious to see if from a state attack. Yeah, I think the biggest vulnerability luckily there's no protocol bugs, but even if there was a protocol bug, I don't think it would be bad for Bitcoin. I think it would be in that sense. Again, I think a decade in the amount of proof of work at this point is I do think it is more likely to be here in 100 years than not likely.
Yeah. What was your most recent aha or level up in your understanding of Bitcoin?
Um, Good one. That's a good one. Most recent. Trying to think of which one. There's so many. I mean, I've been having a lot of aha moments around like multi-signature security Bitcoin in particular, I had a very big aha, holy shit, like you're going to be able to make Bitcoin hardware out of basically anything. And maybe the world of hardware, Bitcoin hardware in particular, as we know it now, would look nothing like it does today. We have centralized companies issuing hardware wallets for individuals, and instead you have open source software across the web, and then users are more incentivized to create their own hardware with disparate sort of computing components, because that supply chain is probably more secure than a targeted Bitcoin hardware device supply chain.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that too. I thought it was super cool, and it made me. I've been thinking for a while, or I think it's fairly obvious if you give it a little thought. But I feel like this self sovereignty movement is working towards a culmination where you're almost completely self sovereign, completely independent. So what will the future look like when everyone has 3D printers in their home where they can print all the hardware required to make their own gun, hardware wallet, whatever. So and they have their own source of food and they have their own independent energy source. And I feel like things, maybe the 20th century was like the burst of globalization, right? Like everything became global. We got avocados from Mexico and we got rice from China and all that kind of shit. Maybe the 21st century is like that contraction back down to the individual, and all these technologies are making that possible. And as a result, people are less dependent on others, and therefore less susceptible to being coerced, and less susceptible to corruption, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I think you're probably right. That's probably how things are going to go. As great as necessary as the existing hardware companies are and have been in the evolution of this industry, maybe it's moving towards a more DIY sort of thing.
Yeah, no, let me be very clear. I love all the companies working on Bitcoin dedicated hardware.
Yeah.
Have used many of their services, but yeah, no, after seeing what Justin did, and then the team behind Spectre, another sort of personalized hardware device put together with disparate computing components. Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about operational security and risk, and how to sort of close attack vectors. And I think not having a dedicated supply chain for these devices makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Um, what do you think will be Bitcoin's biggest impact on society?
Hmm. Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of hard lessons learned, right? I think it's gonna. The biggest impact it will have on society is that it will force people to come to grips with the fact that they've been living a lie their whole life. Um, uh, yeah, I think it's gonna force reality on people, and like we expounded upon it earlier in the episode. Yeah, I just think the divert or the perversion is created throughout the system because of uh, the way money works. It really distorted reality, or people's conception of reality,
Mm-hmm.
perception of reality, excuse me. And with Bitcoin in particular, a lot of people adopt Bitcoin, or a Bitcoin standard in the future. I think it's going to be the biggest impact on society will be the fact that it forces people to look within and really question what the hell is what they're doing.
When, if ever, do you think the first central bank will start adding Bitcoin to the reserves? And the add-on question is, will they even exist in 20 years, in your opinion?
Uh, Never and no, right? Because as soon as they do, they basically render themselves obsolete. For Yeah, I mean, because Bitcoin is a direct response to conceived ills of central banking. Maybe, maybe I could see. Let's see. I'll go back and forth. I don't know. I could see like some African central banks or South American central banks adopting it, but again, um,
What's the point?
what's the point? And the central banking system is interconnected anyway. And if one does it, you sort of question the validity of all others, I would argue. And yeah, like again, I do believe there will be a banking system, but when it comes to, I can envision more of a free banking system like that existed in
Yeah. Well, when monetary policy is baked in, it doesn't really leave a lot of work for central bankers, right? I mean, if the thing already has a monetary policy, what are they going to do? All right. What is the biggest mistake you've made with Bitcoin?
Uh, Spending it, a lot of it. Some Bitcoin I spent, I wish I wouldn't have, um, and probably being too pushy on Twitter too, with friends and family, forcing it, not forcing it on people, but you find your Bitcoin zen when you don't feel compelled to. I mean, I do still feel as if my family and friends get into it, but I think it's wiser to just let them become genuinely curious when they come to you instead of trying to force it upon them.
Yeah. How do you feel about Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin's creator, being anonymous and the coins that they likely control?
Um, I mean, Satoshi being anonymous is one of the special ingredients. Stirs the drink, stirs the straw. Um, so I think for convenience, I mean, Satoshi is. This has been said many times. There's nothing really put it innovative how he combined all the technologies that were pre-existing technologies that were combined in an ingenious way. And I think it's very poetic the way he launched Bitcoin and sort of left the project and has remained anonymous for the first decade. I think it's crucial, again, to sort of create this mythology and not only the mythology of Satoshi, but this sort of standard of he's a good intention creator, if you will, because he hasn't touched his coin. So in he, she, it, they, and so when it comes to the coins, like I don't think they'll ever move. I would imagine Satoshi burned the private keys and started mining other anonymous IP or whatever. I hope that they fund it from outside of those wallets. But yeah, I don't think they'll ever move. There
Can
are
you,
some people who do think they'll move. I could see them moving in the future, but not being detrimental to Bitcoin in the long term. And that would be if uh, we get a decent amount of privacy at the protocol level, and Satoshi can transact with a certain amount of certainty that he won't be discovered, and you can sort of contract jobs out to the world and pay people Bitcoin to do things like build things in cities or something like that. That is the daydream. I don't think it'll ever happen, but that is a scenario where someone's like, oh, what if Satoshi comes back to be somewhat of a philanthropist who tries to help with distribution by having people build shit? I doubt that will happen.
that'd be cool. Can you imagine being a fly on the wall, like assuming he, destroyed his keys, not immediately after, a few years on. Can you imagine being a fly on the wall, like for that intense moment?
No.
Right.
And then I wouldn't be surprised if Satoshi's house burns
Right.
or the fact that Hal hasn't passed, at least temporarily. Also, uh, actually, the Satoshi conversation always draws longer.
All right, moving on then. What have you learned about yourself, or how have you changed, if at all, as a result of learning about and interacting with Bitcoin? Touched on this a bunch already.
And yeah, no, I mean, you get a sense of power, not power, but no, it's helped me sort of self-actualize. Like writing about it and talking about it and being passionate about it has helped me sort of become more confident in my abilities and my abilities to uh, communicate and write and talk about a subject with confidence. Yeah, no, I think it's just again when we talk about like people stuck in 9 to 5s and you're like in that cycle, getting stuck in that cycle, you think I can never do anything outside of this and I'm not skilled enough or whatever. And I was unemployed for a year and a half before I started Marty Bent. I went from an unemployed loser to somebody who was It's tough for a while. I went from zero to people taking the idea seriously and picking up what I was putting down, and that was very empowering.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin was the impetus for that.
Well, this is, for people that are just listening to the rapid fire portion, we did touch on this in the longer, further discussion portion. And I think it gives a lot of people it gives a lot of people something to express through, so a lot of people feel, because it's not, we didn't grow up in an educational system where like those unique talents or traits that are unique to you are one, of course they're not cultivated, but two, you're not even really given much guidance into how to identify them and extract them from yourself. So you're just put through the same meat grinder and you get spat out at the end and said, hey, what do you want to do with your life? And it's like, well, what do you want me to do? And that's what most people do. And when we finally decide, okay, enough is enough, I'm not going to that shitty job anymore. It's it was super hard for me, and I know so many people go through this as well, because it's like I feel this yearning for something. I know I have potential in some capacity, but I just don't know how to extract that from myself. I don't know how to untie that knot within me and actually put it out into the world. And one of the weird, wonderful things about Bitcoin is that it is that canvas or that mirror or that medium that when people begin to interact with it, they gain more clarity on that thing that's inside themselves that they want to somehow express. And I'm not saying everybody's got to do a podcast or got to write shit or whatever. I think it's gonna draw out of people. The nature of Bitcoin is going to draw out of people what their most useful gift or tool or talent is, if they stick with it, if they work with it a little bit. And that's great, because that's not an education that we got in our upbringing, and I do think that's the key to happiness, is to finding that thing, that expression, that from which you derive meaning. But it's fucking hard to find that, and it's especially hard to find it in a capacity that's going to support you, in the physical world. So to the extent that Bitcoin is providing that, it's amazing.
Just to piggyback on that, like I said, anybody listening to that, I tried. It is hard. Like I said, I decided to quit the managed futures fund because I was looking ahead of me, like where I would climb the ladder and end up 10, 20 years. I was like, I don't want to be there. It's evolving. It's pretty miserable.
Right.
This is not the life I want. So I pulled the shoot and decided to take a digital design boot camp over the course of the summer of 2014, and really took a risk and tried to transition from finance to tech. And from something, again, I had that yearning. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I want to focus on other things. Like I felt compelled to learn about code and software because of the nature of the world. And so I did that. But again, I went to, I had a job. I did the boot camp, came back to New York, had a job working at a software company, basically selling offshore resources. That was great to learn about code, but again, turned into another monotonous job. And just me personally, I can only take so much of that cage torture.
Yeah.
So I pulled the chute on that, expecting I'd be able to get a job pretty quickly after. Yeah, it turned into a year and a half of unemployment. That was really predicated by me wanting to find something I was passionate about. And it was a tough year and a half.
Yeah.
Very tough, but it was worth it. It was a tough. Yeah, my 20s were a weird decade. We're still, I mean, still in my late 20s. It'd be first 8 years of my 20s were definitely under ups and downs. But especially for any young people listening to this, I'm very happy that I pulled the chute a couple of times that I did. Yeah, you only have one life. A little bit of struggle is not ideal. I mean, actually, it is ideal. It's not fun when you're going through it, so I really appreciate all of that.
Yeah, man. And if I can piggyback on that, I mean, not that I am in really a position to give advice. I don't know, I don't really like doing it, but to echo what you just said, I've been in a number of different careers, and I've had periods in between those careers of a year, 2 years of, basically unemployment. And like you said, they're really uncomfortable. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And you don't know how you're going to get through. And I just think the most important thing is, like you said, not to be afraid to pull the chute when this just isn't filling up your cup, right? Like when this just, it isn't for you. and not to give up on that pursuit of finding like, if you have that faith that it can be better, and it, you can find that thing from which you derive meaning that you actually fucking enjoy doing, don't give up on that no matter what, because it's whether you find it at 30 or 60, I still think it would be a worthwhile thing once you get it. And I'm no, by no means there yet, but I'm starting to sniff out the trail a little bit more than in the past. And you know, it's life changing, because if you wake up in the morning and you actually are excited to engage in the world, then you can pretty much do whatever you want. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, and one final tip on that point, you might be able to avoid that situation if you don't try to have it all like your first year out of like if you a little bit of patience early on is probably going to go a long way. All right. At what price would you permanently sell over 75% of the Bitcoin you hold, assuming there's no necessity to do so? No, assuming there isn't. So just, if the price has gotten to a certain point that you want to cash out. I love that. Right, right. Have you ever purchased other coins? If so, are you likely to do so again in the future? What is your most controversial or contrarian view or opinion, if none on Bitcoin, any subject, fair game? Right. Um, Ballpark estimate of Bitcoin's price in 5 years. Do you believe there are reliable ways at spotting a paradigm shift? If so, what are they? Right. Nice. Do you have a morning routine? If so, what is it?
Just right to bed. That's it. Yeah, walk for coffee. If we don't have coffee, I'll walk to the coffee shop and then wife and I coffee. And then yeah, write. Sit here and write. That's about it. It's a good routine writing.
It's calming. I used to wake up in the morning and write for half an hour as a matter of routine. I liked it. How do you define success?
Happiness. Just comes full. Yeah, just happy.
Where or who is your go-to place to learn more about Bitcoin?
TFTC.io. I mean, the Nakamoto Institute, to my mind, is probably the best one-stop shop resource for really understanding Bitcoin, where it fits into the monetary how it fits in as a monetary phenomena, and the cypherpunk technologies that led to Bitcoin, and sort of the ethos of um, the cypherpunk movement combined with Austrian economics, because I believe that they're pretty tied hand to hand with Bitcoin. I think Pierre and Michael Goldstein have done an incredible job of aggregating an incredible amount of content in one dense location.
Final question. What is the one most important action myself or anyone listening can take today to up their game in your area of expertise or as it relates to Bitcoin? So if people want to improve, what's something they can do that you think is kind of a high impact action or activity to take?
Right? Great to talk about. It's helped me out immensely. And then if you're so, if you have the courage to share it, share it. So, like we said earlier, how Bitcoin Twitter is Socratic. Put your ideas out there, and they happen to be bad ideas. They get fixed. It's a good thing. So, one, get clarity of your ideas, and writing really helps do that. And then two, test them.
Yeah, I love that. I couldn't agree more. I think regardless of the subject or where you're at with your thinking of it, it helps you to refine your thinking around something and it helps you to gain feedback and refine it even further. And there's obviously a huge personal growth benefit to expressing yourself through whatever medium and seeing what it looks like outside of your own brain. All right, last part, word association. You know the drill. All right. So, first one, Satoshi Nakamoto.
Bitcoin.
Government.
Bad.
Hash rate.
Good.
The individual.
Liberty.
Security.
Guns. God, I'm a person.
Ego.
Unbelief.
Greed.
Inevitable.
Stacking sats.
Wise. Wise.
Fiat currency.
Dying.
Guns.
Protection.
Tales from the Crypt.
Uh, cease and desist.
Matt Odell.
uh, William.
Altcoins.
Hard lesson.
Pizza.
Uh, Joe's Pizza. I brought someone about that last time for dinner.
Nice. Trump.
Psycho.
Future.
Future. Um, fast.
Lib- Libra.
Uh, uh, Emily.
Gold.
Meh. No, not meh. That's a bad one. Damn, I
So it
lost
came
it.
to your head. Bitcoin.
Uh, addicting.
Marty, that's it, man. That's all I got for you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's fun.
Man, I appreciate you giving me the time. We did about an hour and a half. I know you probably got a lot of stuff to do, so I do really appreciate it. Super fun to chat. Is there anywhere, I know a lot of listeners are going to know your stuff already, but for those who don't, you want to just throw some stuff out?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Marty Bent. Um, I write Marty's Bent the daily newsletter and post it tales from the crypt. A colon a Bitcoin podcast on your local podcast station. And then yeah, we create all of our content at tftc.io. It's a brand that we've been building, and so you can find Marty's Bent and the podcast there. Yeah, that's probably that.
Yeah, and everyone, the podcast is awesome. If you're looking for Bitcoin related content, Marty and his occasional co-host Matt do an awesome job at just informing everybody. Some good color there, no nonsense dialogue, which I think endears a lot of your audience to you guys. If I'm ever coming through New York, I'd love to do a face-to-face one of these things, either on yours or on mine, but maybe get a little whiskey in the mix and loosen it up a bit next time. But until then, man, all the best. I wish you all the best in your endeavors, and we'll talk in the future.
Awesome. Definitely let me know if you come to New York. That'd be great.
Will do. Take care, brother.
All right, see you.
Cheers. Bye bye.